It was a terrible shock to learn of the passing of Martin Amis, one of my favourite writers. I have loved pretty much everything that I have read of his. Some of my favourite books are actually they're the ones that other people would consider to be minor novels or even novellas in his oeuvre. I love Night Train. I think it's one of the best bits of kind of hard-boiled noir fiction that's come out in the last 30 years or so. I love Time's Arrow. I think it is just an absolutely genius piece of writing. And I like his non-fiction as well. Now this is Inside Story, which is listed as a novel, but I think it's more towards the non-fiction end of the spectrum, just as his earlier novel Experience was. And also to a lesser extent, what was it called? Koba the Dread, about Stalinism and communism and the effect that it had on a lot of left-wing thinkers of Amis's own generation. One of the things that I really like about Amis and his non-fiction writing like this, his novelistic non-fiction writing, is that he's able to draw themes out of his own life, and it gives shape to life. I mean, he says life is shapeless, but it's, well, yeah. But then the true talent of a writer of Amis's caliber is to give shape to life. And he does that by focusing on a few specific personalities and the events and interactions with his own life. So there is Philip Larkin. He is very central to a lot of this. Philip Larkin, of course, a famous English poet. I can't reproduce the first line of his most famous poem for fear of this video being marked as in need of censorship. There is Saul Bellow, a fantastic writer as well, who was a close family friend of Martin Amis. And of course, Christopher Hitchens, a writer whose work I adore. He's greatly missed as well. And there is a long section as Christopher Hitchens grew increasingly ill with cancer, leading towards the very end. And on top of all of that, we've also got the story of who we know as Phoebe Phelps, who was perhaps the most important love interest of Amis in his youth, and the way that he writes about her and about his misadventures there, it's fascinating. It's the sort of thing that you could make a novel out of very easily. So this is a book that runs to nigh on, just over 500 pages. It does not feel like a 500-page long book. It feels much, not shorter, but more compact and more compressed. And then because it's compact and compressed in its kind of mind space, when you read, it kind of expands and it fills up so much. And it leaves a kind of aftertaste of, hard to put into words really. I do recommend it as a piece of writing, and I think that we can learn a lot about life, but certainly about writing, by following this. And he does have a lot of writing tips in here as well. And yeah, I will never in my life write anything that is even a shade on what Martin Amis has done here. And this isn't even his best writing. And that really just puts it into perspective. You know, the man was, say what you will about things like Yellow Dog, but the man was just an incredible talent. And it's a real shame. It's a real shame. So yeah, Inside Story, read it.